everyone. My name is Delonda of the YouTube channel Crafting with Delonda, and I want to share my initial impressions about the rhinestone panel that's available in Leonardo Design Studio in the beta version. Today is October 3rd, so this is all fairly new to anyone who is testing it out, and like I said, these will be my initial impressions. I am wearing what I consider to be my disclaimer shirt and my disclaimer template. Everything that I'm going to share is my opinion, and hopefully it will help you in some way. Now, I was sent a few questions to answer, and I will answer them, but I kind of want to give a little bit of a disclaimer about my opinions. So I would say that I have a fair share of experience with creating rhinestone templates, brushing in rhinestone templates, using rhinestone templates, cutting them out, working with them. In my experience, and it's not vast, but I would say a fair amount, I have worked with SS6 rhinestones, and I've also worked with SS10 rhinestones. One of the things I noticed in the panel is that there are various sizes of rhinestones that I don't have any experience with. So when I was working with the panel or within the panel, I stuck with SS6 and SS10 just so I would be able to have fair comparisons. I have worked with, I would say, intricate templates, as you know, with that include shapes and words. I've also done templates that are just outlines, just as simple as what you see here. And I like to show some of them so you can kind of get an idea of my experience. I also have a lot of experience with creating the templates that you'll find on my Etsy shop. I have a lot of rhinestone templates on my Etsy shop. So this is a rhinestone template. All of these rhinestones are SS10. Okay, this is also a rhinestone template. All of these rhinestones are also SS10. Most of my experience has been with SS10. This is a rhinestone template that is SS10. Here is another SS10, okay? And then here's the most recent rhinestone template that I brushed in. This one is also, well, no, this one is SS6. All of these rhinestones are SS6. SS6 rhinestones are much smaller than SS10. And so really when you're thinking about the number, the smaller the number is, the smaller the rhinestone is. The shirt that I'm wearing is SS10. The first time when I started working in the panel, I started with SS6. I did notice that there were two versions of SS6. I didn't understand what the second version of SS6 meant. So I just used the first one that said SS6. And I took notes about it. So I worked with the panel. I started with just a basic shape with just a heart that was an outline. And I also did a heart that was filled in. I got the template cut out with no problem. The template cut completely. I was using pink rhinestone flock that I purchased from Heat Transfer Warehouse. And my cut settings with my Siser Romeo, I used a force of 10 and I used a force of 55 and a speed of 10. This is how the template looked when it was cut out. That's SS6, that was 110 rhinestones. This is what the filled in shape looked like. I actually brushed this one in and I pressed it on this bag to see, how it would look. Everything looked great. I had no problems with it at all. I was very impressed. As a matter of fact, after I cut this template and brushed it in and everything, it made me even more eager and excited to try SS10 rhinestones, which I have the most experience working with. So the next thing I did was I wanted to do a combination of text and a shape. So I just made a template that just says, I love Siser. And within the software, I just typed in I've left a space and I typed in Siser. I kind of spaced it out. I'm going to show you that in the software. I will speed through that process because I'm sure you're familiar with what the software looks like. I didn't have any problems with it. I really think it's so easy to use. One of the things that I loved immediately was the simple language. Everything is simple. You don't have to understand the vocabulary. I think one of the hardest things about learning new software is understanding the vocabulary and what do the words mean. What is a compound path? If you don't know what that language is or those words mean, it's hard to learn new software. So sometimes that gives people pause, in my opinion. So one of the things, like I said, that I loved immediately was just that the language was simple. This is a border. A border is a border, no matter what is the edge. A filled in, like I love the simplified language. I love that more than anything. So like I said, the next thing I did was I just played around with doing an SS10 template. This is what the template looked like. So I created it in Leonardo Design Studio. It cut out beautifully. It cut out amazingly gorgeous. And I loved it so much that I decided that I wanted to have an outline or a border around it. So I did that. Now I did not do it. Here's what the border looks like. I did not do a good job of brushing it in. I'm going to show you what it looks like. I've done much better previously, obviously, but I would still wear this. So this is what my finished shirt looks like. It's not perfect, but it's cute enough. And you can tell that it says, I love Siser. You can see that, you know, I have a filled in template and I have a border around it. I think it's gorgeous. Red is my favorite color. So anything red is going to be a hit for me. Now, to answer the questions that you gave me in advance or that were given to me in advance, let's get to those. How does the tool treat sharp corners of text or artwork? So, in my opinion, when it's a regular filled in shape, it treats the corners and the edges exactly like any other software does. As a matter of fact, I think it's a little bit better than the software that I've used previously. All of my designing experience has been in Silhouette Studio. So I don't have extensive experience with multiple rhinestone tools. I only know Silhouette Studio and I really know the basics of that. But I would say it works a lot like Silhouette Studio with simplified language. You will, if I was making a heart in Silhouette Studio, I would still have to move rhinestones if I didn't like the placement. One thing about Silhouette Studio that I didn't notice in Leonardo Design Studio is that if I didn't like the placement of one rhinestone, I could move the rhinestone without having to ungroup it from the other rhinestones, because once you want to move the rhinestones around, you can do that very easily. It's not that it's hard to do it in Leonardo. I feel like the only way to move rhinestones is that you would have to maybe duplicate the object and then move the rhinestones from the duplicate instead of the original. In terms of border, so when I look at a border, for example, on the borders of the word Siser, I noticed that I had to bring the border in closer to the actual fill in order to get it tight, in order to get it really filled in. I like that. With the eye, there was some spacing, but it wasn't a major thing. I still feel like it worked well enough. I was quite impressed with it. How complete is the cut? The cut was perfect. The cut was perfect. The second time, so the first time I used a speed of 10 and a force of 55 for this. And then when I got to this template, I used a speed of 10 and a force of 60. And I used purple flock instead of the pink flock. This flock can be purchased from Eve at the Baby's Booty. So I like this one better. It gave me just a fantastic cut. I didn't have any problems left. As a matter of fact, you can see like what the remnants look like. And this is what you want when you're cutting flock. You want your flock dots to be completely left on the backing. I feel so excited. I do feel like this is going to be a game changer for anyone who is interested in getting started with rhinestones but afraid to learn new software, because once again, the language is so simple. It is just, it is what made me feel really confident even trying to do this. I don't think I would have even tried to do a full template in a different software if I didn't understand the terminology or the vocabulary. So that is that. I'm going to show what my process was. And if you have any questions, make sure you reach out. Hopefully you find this video helpful. I'm here in the software. I went and grabbed the text and I turned on my caps lock. I typed I left the space, and Siser, I knew I was going to put a heart right there in the middle. I resized it and made sure to leave enough space for the heart, added the heart, and made sure everything was centered. Next thing I did was ungroup the path in the word Siser, and I kind of spaced those letters out a little bit more. And once I had them where I wanted them, I went and made sure that everything was still centered. Before moving on to the rhinestone panel, I actually made a duplicate of my design just in case. I didn't realize that there would be a design saved here in the background, and I love that. So right now, everything is on SS6 because that's the previous design I made with just the filled in heart and the outline heart. But I decided to make this template using SS10. Now, what I didn't understand is why there were two versions of SS10, but I just stuck with the first version. Now, when I got to this part of the panel with the fit and fill options, I kind of played around with looking at the border only. I noticed the, offset and spacing. I love the fit equally and the optimize. I looked at the rhinestone vector, which included the fill and the border. I really wasn't fond of the way that looked, so I decided to just go with the fill only. And I really, really, really love this. And so just working with the fill, I noticed that you only use the bottom portion of the panel. I love the fact that you can zoom in and see what you're working with. Smart fill is chef's kiss. I mean, it's easy. All of it makes sense. Grid fill was nice. Hex fill also was good. When I started to play around with this and just like play with the sizing, I feel like bringing the spacing in the horizontal and vertical percentages down was really, really nice. I love the way that it brings the rhinestones closer together and kind of closes in those gaps. I noticed that the more you close it in, the more space it kind of added at the bottom. But with the smart fill, it kind of alleviated that. I did love the grid feel better than the hex feel. I wasn't fond of the hex feel. So I feel like the more and more I use this tool, I'll probably stick with either the grid or the smart feel. I like those best. And after playing with this for a while, I kind of feel like just having it the spacing at 20% both horizontally and vertically just looked best. It looked more complete. The spacing was really, really nice. I loved it. I continued to play around with it, even going down to like 10%, 15%, and trying to see like what would be the best. But I think ultimately 20% was what I loved the most in terms of spacing. Once I was finished deciding on the spacing, I went back to the rhinestone size tab, and I started to play around with just decreasing and increasing the extra padding. I really didn't know what that meant, but just playing around with it, I mean, it really does make it self-explanatory. One thing I noticed with the extra padding is that when I changed my number right there to 21, then every time I increased or decreased, the numbers were odd. So the 21 went down to like 19, then 17, then 15. So I noticed the numbers stayed odd, and that was fine. Once again, I also didn't notice what the PP21 and the PP22, I didn't know what that meant. So that really didn't matter. I played around with the colors a little bit. I didn't try to change the stone size because the size is the size, in my opinion, when you're brushing in the rhinestones. I did play around with the colors, but ultimately I stuck with the extra padding of 0.0 21, and the spacing, like I said, was on 20% both horizontally and vertically. I got everything else all sorted out, and then it was time to cut. This is how my template looked when it was time to get it cut out. Everything I'll do from here will be back on the camera. But at any rate, this is my finished shirt, and hopefully you love it. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to test out the software. And I look forward to hearing more about it and working out more kinks with you if you happen to find any.